Shalom, shalom. Well, here we are, finally. As promised, I will be discussing the case. Quote, end quote, the case. We go chapter and verse, in depth, and all of that. And I'm going to say some things that you haven't heard. But before I go into that, the first thing that I want to treat is what are your intentions for even watching the video? Why do you want to know about the case? Because as Ben Ami would say, this is not for the immediate emotional refreshment. This ain't entertainment, y'all. I ain't no entertainer. This has to do with, plain and simple, power. How power is expressed in terms of governing people and people allowing themselves to be governed, in particular my people, the African Hebrew Israelites of Jerusalem, residing in Dimona, Mitzpeh, Arad, and other cities in Israel and other places around the world. The question being, why are you interested in the case? If you're interested in it so that you can know the facts of it and perhaps use that information to fortify yourself in order to ask certain questions or to act in terms of certain things that need to be acted upon, then I welcome that. I receive that. If you're just watching this video to hear the latest, greatest hits of GAMARIYAHU and the crazy stuff he be talking about, I don't have any use for that. Probably don't have much use for you. You're probably one of the people that, we don't really associate like that. And I love my people. Anyway, so let's get to it. The case. What's important and what you need to know, first and foremost, is that the case, which is AHK Worldwide Enterprises et al. V. Napper, has been closed, resolved, and all of the financial damages, compensatory damages, have been issued to the plaintiff. The plaintiff in this case, AHK Worldwide Enterprises. The plaintiff in this case, Prince Emmanuel Ben Yehuda, the Eastern Prince. The defendant in this case, Jeffrey Napper. Okay? Now, what was the case about? This is just one of the files. You see how thick it is there, right? That if you were to enter the words AHK Worldwide Enterprises V. Napper, then within about 30 seconds, you'll have all of this. Now, I'm not going through all of this, people. This is about 50 some odd, maybe 60 some odd pages. A rigmarole about something that never should have happened in the first place. In order to properly treat a subject, we must, and I train my people, I train the people who train with and under me, that in order to properly cover a particular topic, you can feel pretty assured that you have covered that topic only after you have answered who, what, where, when, why, and how. And then you double back, just to make sure you didn't miss anything. So, the what, we've already gotten the who's, primarily Baruch, Crown Brother Baruch, or former Crown Brother Baruch, whatever suits your fancy. and the Eastern Prince, Prince Emmanuel Ben Yehuda, or Leon Dobbs. Um, so, what is the case? Reading from the document says that it suffices to recall now that plaintiffs are members of the African Hebrew Israelite community, quote unquote, the community, which follows the strict vegan diet, and that community founded and maintained a food service business called the Everlasting Life Health Complex, or the Complex, through the service and monetary contributions of its members, including plaintiffs. It's property. Now, the charge was that Atur Baruch utilized his legal status as the community's agent on the complex's lease to evict members of the community and Yakai Worldwide International, and to assert total control over the business. Basically, they saying that Baruch, acting as the legal agent on behalf of Yakai Worldwide Enterprises, that when he took over the business and evicted them, that that is the problem. That is the issue. That's the reason for the case. We're gonna go deeper than that, people. Okay? Now, plaintiffs filed the instant legal action because Napper appropriated their business for himself and has continued to operate essentially the same food service establishment using the trademark name Everlasting Life in the same location as that business operated prior to the takeover. Plaintiffs claim that Napper's operation of what he now calls the Everlasting Life Restaurant and Lounge, the restaurant, infringed upon Prince Emmanuel and Yakai's trademark rights in violation of the Lanham Act and constituted unfair competition under both the Lanham Act and Maryland's common law. Plaintiffs also asserted that Napper's theft of the complex and the goods and records contained therein constituted conversion of Yakai's tangible and intangible property in violation of Maryland's common law. After a bench trial regarding Napper's liability, the court found that Napper was liable for his actions in forcibly evicting plaintiffs from the premises, seizing their equipment and goods, and reopening the business at the same location with the same moniker. To be specific, this court held that Napper had committed trademark infringement under Section 32 of the Lanham Act and committed and the tort of unfair competition under both Section 43A of the Lanham Act and Maryland common law. And the court also found that Napper had converted tangible and intangible property owned by Yakai in violation of Maryland common law. Okay? In the case, now, first of all, before I go beyond that, let me tell you about how Everlasting Life came into being. Now, GAMARIYAHU, how you know about what happened that with Everlasting Life being established? I was there. I was in the room. In that season in time, Prince Emmanuel had left the city. As a result of him leaving the city, at that particular time with the Crown brothers there, you had an Atur Yatziliel and an Atur Baruch. When Nasik Emmanuel leaves the city, they're in charge of affairs. They're in charge of the brotherhood. Not long after Nasik Emmanuel left, message goes out to the brothers instructing them to show up at this particular site on Georgia Avenue dressed in work clothes. Basically, this was it appeared to be a condemned pretty much close to condemned building with all of the trash and filth and foulness that you can imagine in the place that the brothers, the DC Brotherhood, cleaned out. And this was the impetus, this was the seed out of which Everlasting Life supermarket on Georgia Avenue began, with the juice bar there in the back. Now, Atur Baruch at that time did not have the approval of Prince Emmanuel or anybody else at that point to undertake such a project, because Nasik Emmanuel didn't know about the project. And that was the conversation, that was one of the conversations that I was in the room for between Atur Baruch and Atur Yatziliel. He just kept asking Atur Baruch, Shosh, when we gonna tell him about this? When we gonna tell him? And Baruch was in no rush to tell him, of course, but they know they had to tell him, because how long was this going to stay under wraps? Okay. When Nasik Emmanuel finds out about what Atur Baruch has done, he says, shut it down immediately. Let me tell you also that the way how the enterprises started and grew are the result not only of Atur Baruch's input, not only the nation's input after a while. When they started, this was just Atur Baruch's baby, but there was another legendary soul that was involved, and that person was Imahidi Napper. The name sounds familiar. It's not the Napper that's being sued, and they sued her later, but Imahidi Napper is a national treasure and a legend in terms of the Israelite history as it played out in Washington, D.C. This is also Elamad HaKohen's mother. She was a major investor in Everlasting Life and all of the development of those businesses. Baruch was not in a position to stop what he had started, even though Nasik Emmanuel, now remember, Nasik Emmanuel wanted to shut it down, immediately shut it down. That was his take on Everlasting Life, okay? Funny how some years later, now we find him in court suing Baruch on behalf of the business. How did that happen? I will tell you now. But let's not get ahead of ourselves. First of all, not only did Nasik Emmanuel telephonically through the phone instruct Baruch to shut it down, he had just left the country, y'all. He got on a plane and came back to DC to make sure that Atur Baruch shut it down. He wanted to shut this whole thing down. None of this stuff was ever supposed to happen if Nasik Emmanuel had his way. He didn't get his way, kinda. Because as the business got established and began to grow, we were a blessing to that Georgia Avenue corridor and reaped some financial gain as a result of it. People started seeing dollar signs. So Baruch had the idea, probably not even a year or two after that, we're going to build us another complex. in Capitol Heights. Okay. But Nasik Emmanuel is all on board for this one. Dollar signs. Dollar signs make you crazy. So, not only in the layout and design of the Everlasting Life co-op, supermarket, restaurant, and all of that we did, there's also an office as big as some of the houses on the Kifar. Bigger. The office is bigger than your house with a shower in it. This was Nasik Emmanuel's office. And a private entrance. All that. So he was most definitely on board. Now, what you need to know about the case is this. One of the things you need to know. There was an investment, the initial investment and the largest investment out of all of this was Atur Baruch and Ima Heidi, primarily Ima Heidi. God bless her soul. We miss her so much. Later on, when we got to the new Capitol Heights situation, we sent for the brothers from all of these different missions, and they came in. I said before, Atur Malak Ayel, I think Shamaria, I think Eliram Kohen, let's see, Israel was probably there. I mean, anybody who has building skills, electrical skills, carpentry skills, it was all hands on deck. So this brings into play the beginning of the investments of the nation into the everlasting life thrust of what's happening in Washington, D.C. Those brothers were not adequately paid for their labor. This became an issue. Now keep this in mind. Now you're going to have to keep up. I'm going to try and distill this, but this should really take quite a few sittings to cover, but I'm me. And the way that I was trained by Prince Emmanuel, who was a mentor of mine, was within the community context a father figure of mine. So what happened, GAMARIYAHU? What happened with you and Prince Emmanuel? I'm going to tell you, I honestly don't know. But Nasik Emmanuel chose to do things that caused me harm. I'm lying. I know exactly why. I know exactly why. I know exactly why everything went left. It's because when I came out to the States from Israel in 2012, it really wasn't clear what Prince Asiel had done. And I felt that if he had stolen money, he stole it from all of us, and he was accountable to all of us, and I felt I had the right to address him face to face. In the course of doing that, I was satisfied after our more than 3 to 4 hours worth of conversation. But the question I had was, how come none of the men, Prince, that you raised up, how come none of these men are standing up for you? How come none of these men are even seeking to make intercession for you? Either there's something wrong with you or something wrong with them. But if something wrong, that much is clear. So, I asked the Prince, you mean tell me that you and Nasik Emmanuel have not talked? All of this stuff going around, all these announcements being read on you and thus and so? And y'all ain't talk. He said, no, GAMARIYAHU, I would love to talk to him. First thing I told Prince Asiel when I sat down with him is that Prince Asiel, all due respect, you know, me and Nasik Emmanuel, we tight. So you might as well treat everything that you say to me as if you're saying it to Prince Emmanuel. Why? Because I'm going to tell him what you say. Prince Asiel didn't have any problem with that at all. Frame, fast forward. I say, Prince, you ain't talked to Nasik Emmanuel? I did my Nasik Asiel impersonation. You sit right there, Prince. I'll be right back. I go to call Nasik Emmanuel. At that time, the way that we operated was, if he get a call from me, I know that if he can't answer it, he's engaged with something and he can't take the call. But he's going to circle back to me because that was the level of importance surrounding the things that we dealt with. I operated the same way. Plus, I'm on call for the Prince. So he don't answer, but he calls me back about 15 to 20 minutes. Hey, Nasik. Hey, GAMARIYAHU. Now, this does not sound like the conversation that caused GAMARIYAHU's two wives to be given releases without his knowledge or his participation, for him to be almost railroaded out of the Men of Valor, and then to ultimately become persona non grata within the community, and to not even be welcome to come to a New World Passover ceremony in Washington, D.C. Because what I didn't know all the time, it was Barzini, Prince Emmanuel. It was you. It was him all the time. So all the while I'm taking the reports back to him, I'm the problem. I'm trying to say, hey, Prince, how we gonna fix this thing? And he like, fix what? What's your function? What's your malfunction, GAMARIYAHU? There's nothing wrong with the way things are. All those folks was perfectly at peace to let one of the greatest historical figures in terms of the prophetic unfoldment of the destiny of Africans and African Americans, Prince Asiel bin Israel, they were all content to just throw him away, toss him aside. They ain't give a flying flip. Nobody said, well, can we make intercession? Can we? They're like, nah, we don't need him no more. We got Nasik Emmanuel. History repeats itself. This was the whole Malcolm X, the jealous ministers, Elijah Muhammad split situation. There was a split between Elijah Muhammad and Malcolm, but there was also those ministers who were jealous of Malcolm. So what happened with Prince Asiel? We recreated, pardon me, we recreated that history. Prince Asiel being in the Malcolm character, Ben Ami being in the messenger character, Nasik Emmanuel and others being in the jealous, envious minister posture. Okay. I'm only treating that because I got on the phone with Nasik Emmanuel. Hey, how we doing? We good? We good? We good? All right, we good. How's Ben Emmanuel? All right, how's Satya? Okay. Yasmin, she good? All right, we going through all of our stuff, what we do on our call. And then I go and I say, well, I'm in Chicago. Because I was concerned about the things that I was hearing. And I came to look Nasik Asiel in the face and see what he got to say for himself. After I've spoken with him, I'm satisfied that the things that he's saying to me, they add up, they make sense, they are true. They sound true to me. But regardless of that, he say that he ain't talked to you and he would love to talk to you. Would you be willing to talk to him? Pregnant pause, silence on the phone, and Nasik Emmanuel says to me that he wouldn't be able to do that. And then he went into some diatribe. You know how he started talking like he the smartest person in the room and he the only one that can add and subtract when he really ain't saying nothing but looking very smart doing it, I guess, is the thing. Anyway, I didn't hear that part of what he said because I had learned to tune all of that noise out. You know, look, you mean to tell me the law is that if there's a difference between us brothers as Israelite, we need to resolve it? And you won't even talk to your brother? You were the one who told me how great this man was. You won't even talk to him? That was also the last time that he and I spoke. I digress. I'm sorry. I said that I did not know why. Now you know why. Nasik Emmanuel and I do not see eye to eye. I guess there's a lot more to it, but that's none of your business. Back to the case. So they're saying that Baruch basically stole the business out from under the community. Now, what I would say to you is this. There is a ratio of what Baruch and Imahidi invested into that business and ultimately what the community's investment was into the business. I would probably say that there was a greater investment on the side of Baruch and Imahidi than the nation, depending on the price of the labor. The labor was, significant. So, what happened that caused Baruch to evict the community from Everlasting Life Restaurant? I will tell you, this is it. Once the business got up and going on Georgia Avenue, and then the second one now is up and rolling down there in Capitol Heights, Baruch personally, as the head of those enterprises, was responsible for sending $2,500 per month from Everlasting Life on Georgia Avenue and Everlasting Life in Capitol Heights. You do the math, that's $5,000 a month, $60,000 a year. Now remember, the brothers are not getting paid accurately, and it's becoming a problem. These brothers got families. These brothers got responsibilities. These brothers got Jerusalem Brotherhood dues. These brothers got all kind of stuff. And they're looking at Baruch like he the bandit. Now, I don't know how all of that played out, those conversations between them. I was not there. I was in Israel. Okay? That's another story. So, what happens is Baruch, this is why the case happened. This is why Baruch initially was kicked out of Everlasting Life, and then he circled back with the police and kicked them out because his name was on all of the leases and such. Okay? He started that. That was him and his imam. That wasn't Nasik Emmanuel. It wasn't. I was there. It just wasn't. I don't know why they wouldn't have called someone like myself to testify in the case. I have a pretty good idea. There were only 3 witnesses, and those were witnesses for the plaintiff, Prince Emmanuel, in this case. Baruch's lawyer told him he didn't need any witnesses. This was an open and shut case. He had nothing to fear. I believe that the lawyer was bought off by the other team and the lawyer on the other team. There was some relationship of them, either having a mentor-mentee relationship or something like that I learned about. Anyway, so right being right, what should have happened was there should have been some kind of a split of this is what should go to the nation and this is what should go to Baruch, and they settle on that, figure out a way to move forward. That didn't happen. So now we're in DC court. But I'm giving you the background on this because Baruch, when he stopped sending that $5,000 a month, $60,000 a year to Israel, he was unceremoniously removed from all of that equation. But the problem is, again, like I said, all of this was initially Atur Baruch's baby. None of us had any idea or inclination to do any of this stuff. And his mother, Ima Heidi, God bless her, backed him. Okay? Now, since Baruch's name is on all of the leases and so forth, he shows back up with the Prince George's County police and unceremoniously kicks A double scribbles out of the Everlasting Life facility. Now you got the court case. Okay? I'm telling you the things that you don't know about the case so that you can put all of this together and ultimately do something, because we have handled tens of millions of dollars over the years in the community. We have collected tens of millions of shekels in Israel worth of Kitzpat Yeladim alone. You mean to tell me, now, I don't know what the current housing market is in Israel, but you mean with tens of millions of dollars and tens of millions of shekalim there in Israel, we couldn't figure out a way to buy, let me see, one house? We couldn't buy one house in 30 years? No. That kind of thing would only happen to Negroes. No way. Y'all the smartest, most advanced people on the face of the planet and living pillar to post, paying all of your money to somebody else that don't like you, don't know you, I mean, basically trading one form of oppression to go someplace else and be oppressed by some other people. Those Russian immigrants that you all are renting the apartments from, don't care about you. You should be owning those apartment buildings. But the leadership guided you away. There were not the entire leadership. I don't want to paint with a broad brush, but there were elements within the leadership. There are elements within the leadership. These are people with names that guided you away from basically enfranchising or empowering yourself. I'm telling you what I know. Okay? See what else about this case might be worth. Yeah, I think the most important things to cover, I'm not going through 60 some pages of these notes. Some of the things that I wanted to touch upon just revolved around the fact of Ima Heidi's participation in all of this, the level of participation that she had, and the level that far surpassed the amount of investment that the community had. But the labor factor is tremendous that the community provided in this case. Having said all of that, we've heard that history repeats itself. I say that if history just repeats itself, then that is insanity. The greater understanding is that history repeats itself until it corrects itself. So you see, we just relived all of that Malcolm X, Elijah Muhammad, Nation of Islam history. We relived all of that again. Because after the messenger died in 1976, I believe, the members of the Nation of Islam, they reverted to their Negro mind, and they began to squabble and fight over all of the businesses and the monies and all of that. And they were also in court, just like not even 40 years later, we turn around and do the exact same thing. All the way down to the split between Ben Ami and Prince Asiel. And now we see the case of AHK Worldwide Enterprises v. Napper. What else is significant to know? The reason why this whole thing started, I touched upon that, which is when Baruch ultimately made the decision to not pay that $5,000 a month anymore. You know, that was the boiling pot, the cauldron, of circumstances that led up to these things, led up to the case. Continuing chronologically, what's important to know is that the case is closed. It's done. There will be no more testimony. There will be no more deliberation about AHK Worldwide Enterprises et al. V. Napper. If you are interested in getting that information for yourself, just type those words I just said, AHK Worldwide Enterprises v. Napper, in your Google search. Hit enter. Within a millisecond, you're going to have more information about this case than you ever want to know. Another thing that I should not overlook is that in his efforts to ultimately pay off the judgment against him, Atur Baruch he basically had his arm twisted behind his back, forcing him to sell the the complex. We had the Everlasting Life supermarket on Georgia Avenue, and then there was a property on the corner there that Baruch uh, owned. He bought. I don't know where they getting all this money from. Baruch's my guy and all of that, but I ain't know he had no $1.1 million worth of property just on Georgia Avenue alone. That ain't none of my business. I'm just sharing with you that that property was taken from him, sold, and the 1.1 million was wired to the account of Prince Emmanuel. This is well over 6 months to perhaps a year ago. I have to find the real estate record. I have it in my phone someplace, but it was in October, I think 2019, where he was forced to sell that property. That was 1.1 million, and then the final judgment in the case came to 1.3 million. So there was another 200,000 that he needed to come up with, and he also needed to come up with his lawyer fees. Now the question is, where did Nasik Emmanuel get the money to fund this case? These are the things that you all should be asking. There ain't no answer that can be given that makes any sense. Prince Emmanuel's portfolio has been housing. After more than 30 years of just me knowing him, after more than 30 years, you mean to tell me we don't have one house? Now, you know the way we teach. When we start talking about our adversaries, we say either they cannot or they won't. Either they can't or they will not. Either Prince Emmanuel can't secure the houses or he won't do it, secure the houses. What I'm saying to you is this. You really serious about it? Do what the people up in the Misrad HaPanim, Ministry of Interior, told Nasik Emmanuel one time he went up there. Build your own houses. Now, I know we got the scriptures where other people supposed to build the houses for us and all that. That's the stuff that's that superstition stuff that they get us on, that they get you on. They don't get GAMARIYAHU on that for a flipping minute. Get you hoping and wishing, get your emotions all caught up in it. Listen, even in Monopoly, y'all, the first thing you got to do is buy you some houses. In the adult world that we live in, as an adult, once you have that mortgage or you purchase the house, you can leverage that purchase to get loans and financially secure yourself in other areas that you will never know even exist, living as a renter, being pushed pillar to post by the whims of owners of properties. Abba said, when you're going in the wrong direction, stop, turn around, go in the other direction. Now, I think I've been more or less on point, more or less thorough in terms of the things that I wanted to treat. If I was in Israel, this is what I would do. I would think about that thing that GAMARIYAHU was talking about. How we don't have one house. How we don't have one business that we operate out of, that we own. After, remember, more than tens of millions of dollars. Well, let's forget about the dollars. Tens of millions of shekels. And we love the Village of Peace, we do. But have you looked at what's happening around, above, below, around, each side of the quote unquote village of peace, which looks like a squatter city? Damone is growing. They building all kind of housing you can't even imagine. Don't none of it look like them. Look like somebody grabbed some of the shacks from Johannesburg, South Africa, and brought them and put them in the middle of some nice gated community. Come on, man. We better than this. But what would Gamariyahu do if he was in Israel? Well, I would say the thing that you put a pin in that. I'm going to come to it. The thing that we must understand is that in any relationship, people, there has to be mutual benefit. If there is not mutual benefit, then there's an inequity, there's an imbalance to the relationship. Whether in business, politics, social things, you name it. There has to be mutual benefit. Well, what has been created within the community is a situation where those who govern, some of those who govern anyway, they get a benefit because we don't have the internal controls in place that would point toward the transparency of how monies are moved. And they ain't never going to put that in place. If they wanted that, they would have done that. They want that money to keep on going wherever. This is not each and every person in leadership. Let's not paint with a broad brush. But it's some of them. And this is the other thing that I got to treat before I tell you what I would do and then I close. Those of you up there who are wait for these cars to go by. Thank you very much. Those of you up there who are company men, the company man of today is the modern day house Negro. You heard it from me first. The company man, the man who will avert his eyes from wrongdoing and won't deal with wrong when he sees it and will defend the wrong, will defend it. That company man who may be a member of the Holy Council and knows this stuff ain't right. That company man who may be a member of Bitakon. That company man who might be a member of the Crown Brothers, who might be a member of the Ministers, who might be a member of the Brothers on the Move, the Women of Valor, what have you. The company men. Dr. King said that it may have been attributed to him, I'm not sure. But the only way that injustice can continue to prosper is if good people do nothing. You got to stand up for yourself. That's all I'm saying to you. And you company men, you got to stop defending wrong. Righteousness exalteth a nation. Righteousness exalteth a nation. We don't look anywhere near as strong as we looked 20 years ago, 30 years ago. And if anybody wants to tell me something different, I'm all ears. Let's look at our development in Africa. Let's look at how we look in Ghana now. Hey, whatever happened to the restoration villages that we had down in Togo? And the activity we had in Benin? Oh, ain't no real word on that right now? Oh, you mean tell me that they bulldozed You know what had been built there in Ghana. Well, what's happening in Kenya? Well, I heard that flooded recently. Oh, okay. Abba taught us about the indicator panel, but you have to be able to read the indicator panel to realize whether or not the eternal Yah, that is Yah, is with you or is against you. It's not a question of whether or not he's with you or not with you. It's whether he's with you or against you. This is a season that it takes another type of moral fiber, another type of moral character, a heroic character. And I say hero, thinking about my Dode Ben Kayel HaGibor, Gibor, hero. How did he become the hero? Because there was a threat against our people. And those brothers, they locked arms and they went down to that park to deal with that threat face to face. So, in closing, if I was in Israel, what would I do? And this is what I recommend you do, because this ain't my monkey, not my circus at all. I don't have anything to do with that. They have removed my wives without my knowledge or participation, which is against the law, and the priesthood condoned it and sanctioned it, which is a criminal auxiliary of the criminal enterprise. They have been in receivership basically since I've been coming to Israel. Somebody going on onus, whatever. But nobody really demonstrating the koach. See, the priesthood was supposed to be that element that could go before the king and check him. We don't have a priesthood like that right now. They don't. Let me not say we. But those my brothers, I know them. I'm a student priest. Y'all know me. Y'all know me. Y'all know my work. Because my presence can still be felt over there, and I know this. Because I know the plants, I know the seeds. I know the seeds that I planted over there for my people. If I was in Israel, what would I do? In closing, I pray that the God of Israel bless and keep you, cause his face to shine upon you, lift up his countenance unto you, be gracious unto you, and grant you peace. I don't have a horse in this race. I don't have anything personal against any of these people. These are people that I loved and liked for years. Now, I didn't like them so much when they started doing things that only enemies would do to me. I do possess some intelligence in that regard. If it was me thinking about Hagibor, thinking about men like GAMARIYAHU, a brother's brother, thinking about Beefneem, Dode Haramiel, Akiezer, Gidon, thinking about these men. If it was me, I would talk to a couple of brothers, or I would go myself, and I'd be like, "Hey, anybody know where Nasik Emmanuel live these days? You lying. You mean he live right here on the Kifar where we stay? Well, why don't we just go right down there to the house and knock on that brother's door and talk to him about the concerns that we have? Because we always taught that the greatest elevation in the kingdom was to be a brother. Anything beyond that was supposed to just be more responsibility. But that's not what they did. Okay? Now, should do, senior brothers, mighty men, get you a couple brothers, go down to the house where Nasik and Manuel stay. Hey, brother, Katsumeak, need to talk to you. I'm going to ask that you come outside so we could talk. And when you come out, leave all of that international spokesman, congressional liaison talk. Leave that in the buy-it. Because if you come out here and you're not talking right, it's going to be a problem. That's what GAMARIYAHU would do. Let the chips fall where they may. This is about my people. This is about the prophetic unfoldment of the plan of Yah. We ain't playing. So, I leave you as I came, in perfect peace. I'm down here in Alabama, y'all. Easy like Sunday morning. And I'm through.